Hello everybody and welcome back to another Walking Dead video, and in today's video we'll be talking about Fear the Walking Dead and what made Fear the Walking Dead great. In this video I want to break down what were those key things that made Fear the Walking Dead one of the best shows on TV back during its original first two season run. I do recommend also you go click in the top right corner if you haven't seen the rest of the videos for this little playlist I have called The Rise and Fall of Fear the Walking Dead, where I have the day Fear the Walking Dead died and why Fear the Walking Dead absolutely sucks now. This is kind of the third video, which is about what made Fear the Walking Dead great during its original couple of seasons. The first big thing which I think made Fear great was its standalone ability. It was a very kind of independent show. It wasn't a spin-off show to The Walking Dead. It was a sister show. Looking at Fear now, it's a big spin-off show. It's no longer a sister show. And looking at all other Walking Dead projects, they're all spin-offs to The Walking Dead. They're all directly related to The Walking Dead. But Fear originally wasn't. And I think that really helped the show find a new audience because it had a completely different cast, completely different setting, completely different timelines. So it had different events going on. Everything was different in the show. The only things that were the same really was there were zombies in it and everyone was affected. They didn't even call them walkers. Just everything about the show was different. It was very unique in the Walking Dead universe. And because of how unique it was, Fear was able to find its own fans that might have not liked The Walking Dead, but they liked Fear because of the different things it focused on. It was very standard, and I think this really helped set Fear out from the shadow of The Walking Dead. And that really helps make a show great if it can stand on its own two legs and doesn't have to rely on its original show to prop it up and run it, basically. Fear is very different now, but back then, Fear was so good it didn't need The Walking Dead to survive. The next thing that I need to talk about is definitely the location and the visuals, because Fear definitely had a very unique way of having their story in Mexico and the way they had the show look. Looking at a lot of other zombie shows at the time, they all took place in very rural America and looked very kind of realistic and kind of dark and grimy. However, Fear stood out. It was like, okay, we're not going to be very generic. We're going to take place in California, have it in Los Angeles, and then in Mexico. Those are two very unique locations, and then have the visuals be very sun-kissed and make everything look very saturated. That made Fear look very new and different, as instead of having the realistic version of what Apocalypse would look like, you have Fear, which is, okay, we're going to look everything look slightly very over the top and very colourful, which led to Fear looking way prettier than most other zombie shows. And on top of that, they have some of the most interesting locations for a zombie show, looking at having it in Mexico instead of America, so you see a different culture and how a different culture dealt with the apocalypse. It is very interesting to watch just for the locations that Fear used. Looking at other things we have to say is that the acting and the cast was definitely very strong and really helped prop up Fear to make it one of the best shows at the time. Like, no one can disagree with me and no one can argue that the original cast of Fear was very good. You had characters like Nick and Travis, which were very beloved. You also had very good characters like Troy, you had Walker, you had the old version of Daniel and Strand. You had some very good and very interesting characters in Fear, and they really carried the show and made it a very interesting show with characters not just being good, evil, black and white. It was very mixed with, okay, you have characters like Strand who are grey, where they would help people that they like, but they're always there to help themselves. Or you have characters like Daniel with a very dark and very interesting past that slowly gets unraveled as you slowly find out things about his past and find out things that he's capable of doing. You also have very interesting storylines with characters like Nick, who is a recovering addict during the fall of the world. There is some very cool and interesting characters in Fear, and it made the show very compelling and watchable because people will want to find out what happened to their favourite characters. And the best bit about having your favourite characters is that with the original run of Fear, you never knew who was next. It was not at the point in time where, if you look at The Walking Dead now and a lot of shows now, it's become a big thing and a big trope of, oh, big shock, character dies. But Fear back then, it was never who's gonna die next. It was never like, oh, we're just gonna wait for a big character death to get shocks. Fear didn't rely on big character deaths for shocks like The Walking Dead by this point had set into the motion. Fear was more focused on developing characters and not about if this character gets loved, we'll kill them off for big shock. Fear was more about the story arcs and the characters learning things and characters dying but not being a big thing like it was in other shows like The Walking Dead at this time, with The Walking Dead focus on we kill big characters so we can get big shock and have big arc and have big episode be like, oh, episode 8, big death. Fear was nothing like that. So the point I'm just making is that Fear didn't really have a formula like Walking Dead at the time did, where The Walking Dead had the 1, 8, 9, 16. Fear had the same episode count, but it didn't stick to, oh, we're only going to have these episodes be important. These are the only episodes that are going to matter. The rest is filler. Fear just didn't have that format, and every episode was more or less important. There might have been some pacing issues, but Fear didn't rely on the mid-episode always being, oh, this is the mid of the season, we have to have a big character death, we have to have a big episode moment. No, you could get big episode moments in like episodes that are before the season finale. You could have big episodes happen in the middle of half seasons. It wasn't like The Walking Dead. It wasn't like some other shows where the only important episodes were the starters, the finales, and the mid-finales. My next point is definitely going to be Dave Erickson. Just Dave Erickson himself with his writing and vision for Fear the Walking Dead. He really made it great with his focus on it being a prequel to The Walking Dead. So we got to see the fall, as in The Walking Dead we didn't see that. We just jumped straight over that. And that's a very big moment in the Walking Dead franchise, to see the world end. The Walking Dead never did that, and no show has done that since The Walking Dead. Like, everything's been about, okay, now we're in the apocalypse, but Fear really focused on that. It was about, okay, we're not going to do all this, we're going to focus on the start of the apocalypse, we're going to focus on the characters dealing with the world still collapsing around them and having to fight other characters which are still getting to grips with the situation that they're in. And that really helped the show, in my opinion, really made it great, because it was very different to all the other shows. It was very different to The Walking Dead. It was its own thing, and it was very interesting to see our characters slowly become these killing machines instead of becoming killing machines over a short amount of time, already killing machines by the time of start of The Walking Dead. In this show, we got to see different characters deal with the apocalypse in different ways. This show just had a really good vision to be this prequel about the fall, and it was nothing to do with The Walking Dead. It was his own thing. And Dave Erickson, if he stayed on, he probably would have had a very interesting story with it staying in Mexico, and it would have been very interesting to see what he wanted to do going forward. And that is my video for what made Fear the Walking Dead great, and those are my big points that, in my opinion, just made Fear great for me, and those were the things that just made Fear. But please tell me down below, what do you think? Do you agree with my points, or do you think there's other points that made Fear great? Do you think I'm missing any big points that just made Fear great? I would like to know your thoughts and opinions about what made Fear great down below. And if you want more Walking Dead content, please look on the screen. And if you want to see my video for why Fear the Walking Dead sucks, now look in the top left. And if you want to see the day the Fear the Walking Dead died, look in the top right. And if you enjoyed this video, I recommend you should press the like button just to help me out a little. But if you want to subscribe, feel free. I recommend you should subscribe, because I can help you keep up to date on all things Walking Dead universe. That is all the spin-off shows, all the movies, all updates to The Walking Dead. I can help with 2 videos every week. So feel free to subscribe, and welcome to the channel if you do. But this is it for me today, so goodbye, peace out, and I'll talk to you at a later date.